they're all hurt by that wrong conduct. So it seems as if it's good on the surface, but actually it's a corruption or distortion. Jesus put it, the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. He makes it proactive to help others and do the good thing.
All right, now one of the other things about this is, again, what we're saying then is that there is an incredible subtlety in the deception, and that white witchcraft or black witchcraft or whichever way, it still has the same basic source. It still comes from the same place. And I know that just from personal experience. I have not ever had any experience with a Wiccan individually, personally, but I know that this has become extremely popular amongst young people. And the first time, a few years back, when we first studied this subject, actually for a radio program, Jonathan,
that's
remember
right.
that?
Oh, yeah.
I had talked to my kids about it, and my oldest daughter, I had just casually mentioned that we were studying, for the radio program, we were dealing with witchcraft, and when I was telling them about Wicca, and she looked at me, she says, "Oh, yeah, I know a witch." I said, "You what?" She says, "Yeah." And it was actually a male. It was a guy. She says, "Yeah, he's in my school." And everybody knows he's a witch. And it was just one of those conversations that I never expected to have happen. And as a matter of fact, she was telling me about, sometimes he brings his spell book to school with them and so forth and so on. And I said, "Really?" I said, "You think I could see that?" She said, "Probably." So the next day she brings it home and she shows it to me. The interesting thing is that in this Wiccan description, and I know we're supposed to be in a commercial, Fred, but give me a minute here. It talks about Wiccans are not supposed to be laying curses, to conduct love spells. All those things are strictly forbidden. Well, this guy, he was a Wiccan, and his book was full of love spells. I read them, so it's not like I'm making this up. So just what you said, the idea that you have something that comes across, it's packaged and marketed so cleanly, but in fact distorts itself, and there can be negative effects far beyond what we normally know. Folks, we're talking about serious issues of this evil spirits working in our world right now.
This is Jonathan and Rick with Christian Questions on 980 WSUB. Should you believe in ghosts? Stay with us. Welcome back to Christian Questions on 980 WSUB with Jonathan and Rick. Our subject this segment, should you believe in ghosts? To be a part of our program, call 443-9782, 443-WSUB.
And we are here talking about the idea of evil spirits in our world. We're talking about spiritism. We're talking about witchcraft. And we've really opened up a lot of cans of worms this morning here.
Yes, we have.
So Rick, we were talking during the break there, and you said you had a couple more points you wanted to make.
Well, that's the thing. I really wanted to touch on this aspect a little bit more. White witchcraft, white magic, compared to black witchcraft or black magic. Spells are really misunderstood by most of us until we look into it. A spell is really witches trying to open their subconscious mind to tap into the power of these different spirits behind the forces of nature, so that they can enhance themselves, improve themselves, and reach desired goals that they want. But the danger here is that they're, through these different spells and rituals and incantations, they're really trying, it's almost like a self-hypnotic state, that they're opening their mind, weakening their own willpower to resist these very forces. They're inviting these forces to come into them. They're acknowledging that these are spiritual forces greater than them, but they're viewing these forces as being good. And the key is that the holy angels would never get involved with humans in that way, whereas these fallen angels are trying to do just that. Get people to lower their willpower so they can get involved in controlling their minds and influencing their minds. And with witchcraft, white or black, this is the real danger, is that it starts out seemingly good, but it leads you along to a point to where you actually have less and less direct control over your own mind because you've opened it up to these spirit powers. Now, an evil spell, they're called hexes, and witches will acknowledge there is the possibility of evil spells or hexes, and they acknowledge that there is the possibility of evil spirits, even though generally they don't recognize Satan as a individual spirit. But nonetheless, what we find is that people desiring to get control in their lives, to find some expression of spirituality, turn to things like Wicca, witchcraft, in order to gain a better control of their lives, maybe reach certain desired goals, to worship Mother Earth and the forces of nature because they can see these things, and it's a very, very subtle draw to bring them into this loop. Now, today it's interesting that Halloween is the second most popular holiday to Christmas.
Isn't that amazing?
It's truly turned around in such a sense that people, for a month leading up to Halloween, are decorating their houses and their yards with really quite a bit to do with witchcraft themes. We see gravestones, we see witches, ghosts, all these various things that actually should be quite scary and abnormal and absurd are actually entertained and more by adults.
Mm-hmm.
So we're seeing a change in the culture. Now, one of the things that we find interesting is the Pagan Federation has had to institute a youth ministry because there's been such an increase in curiosity and inquiries regarding paganism and also into witchcraft since the advent of some of the TV shows and movies that we've seen. Well, we think of some of the most popular would be Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which actually kind of makes witches seem like they're kind of fun and comical and entertaining. And then we have Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but here we have a much more dark scene. But Buffy is still considered to be a good person, as it would, a good power, using supernatural power to defeat the supernatural powers of evil.
So just to interject here for a minute, really what you're saying then is that witchcraft and spiritism in general have worked their way into the general population as being accepted as just part of our everyday life.
Well, that's the thing, is Hollywood presents it in TV and in movies, and on one hand is being almost comical. Bewitched was another example of that.
Okay,
harmless.
Rick, I don't mean to interrupt, but we have a call, and we want to get them on because we're starting to get near the end of the program.
Certainly.
Okay.
Welcome to Christian Questions. This is Jonathan and Rick. Who are we speaking with?
Hello, Jonathan. This is your sister, Lori.
Hey, Lori.
How are you? I do appreciate the talk you're having this morning. It's very interesting. And I do have some questions. You know that in colleges and universities they're teaching the metaphysics. And is that really sort of a form of witchcraft also? Is that what that's about? Or
okay,
it's about the beyond and things like that. And I used to be fascinated by it, and now hearing your talk this morning, I'm really not so much after all.
Well, good. Rick, any comments on that?
Well, it's interesting because physics is the law, the observation of the laws that govern the physical universe. Metaphysics means that which is beyond the explanation of physical laws. And so that's really the paranormal. And we haven't gotten to that discussion yet. And when we do, we'll talk about psychics, ESP, extrasensory perception, and some other features that is not open witchcraft. It's different than witchcraft.
Okay, Rick, let me also just quickly interject that. We have decided to continue this subject next week, folks. So when Rick says we haven't gotten to that yet, but we will, what he's saying is stay tuned next week because this is way too big to handle all this week. Go ahead, Rick. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, that's good. That's really all I wanted to say on that point.
Well, thank you very much, and I hope to hear about this next week.
and I'll definitely save a tape for you, Lori.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for calling.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate everything that you're doing.
Appreciate it, Lori. Bye-bye.
Bye.